Trump administration launching a Newark airport emergency task force made up of experts from Verizon, L3, Harris, and the FAA. This is in response to the fallout of several air traffic control screens that now blacked out at Newark Airport. And joining us right now is Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy. He joins us this morning. Thank you for joining us. Let's just go through the basics at this point, which is how safe is it genuinely to be in the air, to be landing or taking off at Newark Airport?
Good question. It's safe, and that's because we have numerous redundancies in place at the FAA. So when you have issues with your telecom, we slow down traffic, which is exactly what we've done at Newark. And then even if you lose telecom, like you saw twice in the last 2 weeks, there's procedures in place with the air traffic controllers and for pilots. And so it's safe. But again, we have a problem on our hands in that we have an aging telecommunication system using copper wires, not fiber. And we have a shortage of air traffic controllers. This has been a problem that's been burning for a number of years. There were watchdog groups in government that gave warnings to the last administration that this was a problem. Nothing was done. And so now we have solutions and fixes to the problems, but none of these you can snap your fingers and fix. They all take time. And we're going to ask the Congress for the money, the resources to make those fixes. Right. But again, it's going to be, 2, 3, 4 years before we see more air traffic controllers and we get an infrastructure that's worthy of America, into our airspace.
United has already obviously, shifted its schedule and sort of retreated in terms of how many flights it has out of Newark. That's ultimately going to impact LaGuardia and JFK. And these, of course, are international hubs. It's also probably going to put pressure on pricing, meaning that customers are going to be paying more for flights out of these airports. What is your expectation over the next couple of weeks or months for those folks who have actually booked out of Newark, whether those flights are going to ultimately get removed and pushed to other places? Just in terms of, for those, and this is a news you can use question, for those who are trying to schedule things, what would you be doing? What would you be doing yourself with your own family?
So I have the power to convene the airlines with the FAA to talk about, the capacity at airports. It hasn't been used in 20 years. I've exercised that authority. That meeting is going to happen this Wednesday. All the airlines are going to come together and see if they can get to an agreement on how they reduce their capacity at Newark. Because again, Andrew, what you want people to book their flights and be able to fly on those flights without being delayed for 4 or 5 hours and then have their flights canceled. So, again, I think as we get through this week, we're going to have a pretty good idea of what the capacity is. And again, if we get the agreement from the airlines, we're going to be in a place where if you book, you're going to fly.
Secretary, the FAA told the New York Times that as few as 3 air traffic controllers were scheduled to work last night directing planes in and out of Newark. And at some points, there was just one fully certified controller on duty. There were delays of up to 7 hours yesterday. How is that possible? Is that true?
Yeah, listen, we're 3,000 air traffic controllers short. And it's going to take time to train up those controllers. Let me just explain, one quick thing. If you have a controller who, say, works in the D.C. airspace, they've been in the job for 20 years, they're experienced. If you move them up to Newark, it takes them almost a year to get trained up on that specific airspace. So I just can't move controllers around the country and fill the gaps in Newark. It's a specifically trained controller that can work that airspace. And so when we had, air traffic controllers after the system went down a couple of weeks ago that took leave because they were stressed out, that puts more pressure on the system. We had a few additional situations last night. And again, what we do is we will slow down traffic. You'll see delays, but safety is the top priority. And so if you don't have the controllers to navigate the airspace, you slow the airspace down. Or if it's not safe, you shut the airspace down. That's what we do. And so you might complain about delays, which I agree, traveling with a family in this environment is challenging. But in the end, I want to make sure you get to the place that you're going and you get there safely.
I mean, traveling for business is almost impossible at this point. If you're talking about delays on those levels, you can't schedule business. It's going to cut into efficiency in this area. How did we wind up 3,000 air traffic controllers short? And is there anything that can be done to bring back people that may have left or retired, or are there mandatory retirement ages, and there's nothing we can do about that?
No, that's a great question. So, we've had this problem for 10 years, but the school that trains our air traffic controllers in Oklahoma City shut down and didn't ramp up fast enough during the COVID years. And so it's exacerbated the problem. And so what I've done now is, again, the mandatory age of retirement for a controller is 56. Most of them retire at 51, 52, 53 because they can retire after 25 years of service. What I've done is I've offered them a 20% bonus to stay on. Don't leave. They're the most experienced controllers that we have. A lot of them, I think, just patriotic controllers are going to stay on and continue to serve the country. And then there's a lot of problems of getting young people into the academy and through the academy in Oklahoma City. We've worked through the kinks in the academy, and we're going to expand the capacity at the academy, so we're going to get more controllers into the airspace. But again, it takes a year to 3 years to train up a new controller to work in airspace. So this is going to be a longer-term problem. Someone should have seen this coming in the last administration and try to do this supercharge. But we're left with, again, 3,000 short, and we're going to fix the problem as well as trying to fix the infrastructure. I don't know if you saw our press conference last week. We're using 1980s-esque equipment. We have radar that date back to the 70s. The systems are really old. They should have been updated a long time ago. And so now we need new telecom, and we need all new equipment in the centers and towers and TRACONs throughout the country that keep our airplanes away from each other and keep passengers safe.
On a very technical level, I know you plan to replace the copper connections between Newark and Philadelphia with fiber. How is that going to change things immediately? Meaning, once that is done, what does that do?
So, one, it's going to solidify the communication lines, right? So we have air traffic controllers that can talk to airplanes, and we can get the radar feed on the controller's scope so they can see where airplanes are. We already laid fiber at Newark. It's being tested right now. Hopefully, the tests are going to be done next week. We're working on new lines that are going to connect Newark to the TRACON that controls that airspace down in Philly. Hopefully, that's going to be done, in the next month. But again, laying fiber and doing these connections don't happen overnight, right? It takes time to do it and then to test it, and that we're in the process of doing that right now. But again, we're working at lightning speed. Verizon has been a great partner of ours. They put us to the top of their list of the work they're going to do to make sure that Newark is taken care of, and we have solid, strong lines coming in. Just one quick note, fiber's great, right? It's reliable. It's the gold standard in communication. The problem we have is it's really fast. And so as fiber comes into the tower or the TRACON or the center, we actually have to slow it down because it's so fast. Our systems need a speed of copper. So again, it becomes technical and challenging because the speeds don't match. But again, it's going to be reliable. We have the technology to slow that speed down so it can work with our old equipment. Again, we have industry working with us at the FAA. And again, I can't snap my fingers and fix it, but I think we're going to be on a good path here this week and in the coming couple of weeks getting that fiber laid and connected between the airport and the TRACON.
Secretary Duffy, first of all, thank you for taking this seriously and working quickly. Obviously, this is something that's built up over years and even decades when it comes to the equipment that we're dealing with. If Newark is the worst place in the country right now, where's the second worst? And should we expect to see this happen in other cities across the nation over the coming months?
No, listen, so we're starting to see cracks in the system, right? It's safe, but we should heed the warnings that we see with the equipment that we use, and we should fix it. A lot of Americans fly. And so to make sure that we have great infrastructure, that we lead the world on this infrastructure, I think is incredibly important. Newark is interesting because last summer, that airspace at Newark was controlled by the New York TRACON, which had LaGuardia and JFK. Last summer, they moved Newark down to the Philly TRACON. And that created a number of problems when they moved it. Again, they didn't harden the connections that were necessary, and they didn't move one of the systems that are necessary down to Philly. They're pulling that information out of the Newark TRACON. This gets really complicated really quick, so I'm sorry about talking about those things. But because of the setup when that airspace was moved from N90 in New York down to Philly, it created problems that we're now dealing with today. Had the work been done last summer up front to make sure that the lines were hardened and all the systems were in Philly, I don't think we'd be dealing with this situation.
Why did that happen last summer?
We fix it.
Yeah. What happened last summer? Who decided to not push that through? They didn't have money from Congress. What happened?
There was politics, between Chuck Schumer, the FAA, the controllers. The real problem was that they weren't able to get enough controllers at the New York TRACON that controls that airspace. There were staffing shortages, and I think the FAA thought that they would have better staffing options in Philly. It was a process that was going on for a couple of years. The move happened last summer. Right. Pete Buttigieg and the FAA, certified that the move should take place. The problem was they didn't do the precursor work necessary to make sure that we wouldn't have the problems that we're seeing today. But to your broader question, we're seeing problems throughout the system, small cracks.
Where's the next worst place of Newark?
Listen, I don't know. We see blips in our communication, 100+ times a week, right? The systems don't go down, but we're seeing infrastructure issues. And again, that's why we have multiple redundancies in place to make sure flyers are safe. But my call, though, is Congress has to fund a massive build around our airspace and our air traffic control. And it's going to take billions and billions of dollars. I think we can do this in 3 to 4 years. We have to clear the permitting regulation so we can do it fast. And if Congress does that for us, again, we're going to have a system that will be the state of the art. It'll be the envy of the world. It'll be the best in the world. But I can't do it by myself. I need the Congress to partner. And by the way, this is bipartisan. Democrats and Republicans are all in agreement. We have to find a vehicle in which they can put the money in, to get it to us so we can start the work. Right. But again, top-level legislators in both chambers, R's and D's, are supportive of what we want to do.
Mr. Secretary, I have one final question, which is the cost of all of this and who's going to ultimately bear it. There's an argument that the taxpayer should ultimately, because it actually benefits the entire economy and all Americans benefit just from the movement that airlines create. There's also an argument to be made that the airlines should be paying for it because they're profiting off of customers who are getting on those planes. They were also beneficiaries of some of the bailouts during COVID and other things like that. How do you see that playing out over time? And do you think that customers will ultimately pay more for tickets as a result of paying for this safety, which is so necessary?
So we have general aviation that uses the airspace. We have airlines that use it. We have cargo shippers that use the airspace. Again, I think that the Congress is going to pay for it. There's a debate that happened, 5 years ago. Should air traffic control be privatized? What that's going to do is it's going to divide people. It's going to divide the industry. It's going to divide the Congress. We don't have time for a divisive fight. Let's fix the system. Do I think it's going to make your tickets go up? No. But I think what's going to happen is you're going to have a more resilient system that is going to allow us to be more efficient in the airspace. Listen, we're going to add on drones and eVTOLs, these Ubers in the air. The airspace is becoming more complicated. There are more flights that are taking place. And so with this new technology, we can make the airspace more efficient as the airspace continues to evolve over the course of the next years and decades. And what's also interesting, if we build this new system, it's like your iPhone. The technology is, or the hardware is so good, you can update it with software updates. As new technology becomes available in the airspace, we can actually build on top of what we're going to use. But what we have right now, it's like the old flip phone. You can't update anything there.
Quick question, in your lane, sort of in your lane, but related. We just had Ted Cruz on the broadcast, and we were asking him what he thought of the Qataris offering a plane to the president. He had some deep concerns about the national security implications and potentially the emoluments clause and other things of that sort. Do you have those same concerns? Listen,
I know the president wants a plane. I will leave that to the Congress and to the DOD in regard to the safety issues that come into play. Andrew, I've been so focused on the issues at Newark and around the airspace. That's a question I'm not going to walk into because, again, there's a lot of other elements that are at play right now. But I appreciate the question, and I hope the president does get a plane soon.
Mr. Secretary, I want to thank you for joining us in this conversation. And boy, do we wish you a lot of luck in all that you're working on because it affects so many Americans. Talk to you soon.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.